welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Coming at you guys with a new video. This is all going to be about the major transits for February of 2023. Hopefully you guys are doing well and you're excited to kind of kick off this next month. Happy Sunday to those of you guys who are part of my Sunday crew. And big thank you to all the subscribers and the members. Thank you guys for supporting me, for your comments, your likes, and your shares. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western astrologer with an emphasis in working both with the Sabian symbols as well as tarot. The last Sunday of every month, we take a look at the month ahead, getting an idea of what's coming our way, and we'll break this down week by week as we go through the month of February of 2023. As many of you guys may know, I already put out the February horoscopes. That's for each and every one of the 12 rising signs. A lot of these transits I did touch on for each of the 12 rising signs, but I want to talk to you guys a little bit more about how this may play out in the world. There are more transits in this list for us to kind of get through, so I'm going to try to move through those swiftly today. I'm getting hit, man, with the moon in Taurus. It's like squaring Saturn and all of this stuff, and I'm realizing like I totally overloaded my schedule. So I apologize if this is not as long as it usually is, but I intend on it being as thorough as possible. So as you guys are waking up on the 29th of January, that would be today, you're feeling the square, okay? So in the morning, and this will be throughout the day, the moon in the sign of Taurus obviously is nice. We've kind of gotten banged up the last couple of days. We felt like we're at a crossroads. This is because the moon has been in conjunction to Uranus, and it has been in a square to the sun, and now this morning it's coming into a square with Saturn. So there is this sense of the moon wanting comfort and ease. It wants to take its time, but Saturn is saying we have other obligations, responsibilities. So we're feeling a little shaken up. Maybe Saturday, maybe even today haven't quite gone according to plan. The nice thing is as the day goes on, the moon is going to be coming out of the square and the conjunction, and it will also start building into a trine with Pluto. But fortunately, unfortunately, the moon's going to come into a square. It'll be later in the afternoon. So yeah, Sunday plans also. I think I said this to you guys last week. I was like, things probably aren't going to go according to plan. I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff. And while we're in Aquarius season, anytime that the moon is going through Taurus or Leo or Scorpio, we're going to see this happen, and it's going to reenact some of these either squares, oppositions, which we'll see during the full moon in Leo, or this will be a pretty gnarly T-square when the moon goes through Scorpio. So those of you guys who like to track the lunar transits, please pay attention to when the moon is in the fixed signs this month, at least while the sun is in Aquarius before it moves into Pisces. And those of you guys who are not already aware, yes, we're in Aquarius season. That has begun just about a week or so ago. Okay, so that's going to be, I'm going to take you guys through the end of January. So this is going to be Monday the 30th. By this point in time, the moon has ingressed into Gemini. I like the 30th and the 31st, honestly, even though we're going to feel a little agitated Monday, okay, because the moon in Gemini is going to make contact with Mars. So we're rushing to get the word out, communicate, drive, get around. This is also going to be making a trine to the sun in Aquarius. So we've got air trines going on. It's about connecting with people. It's about sharing. It's about socializing. And we may find that we're just kind of in a little bit of like a pinch, especially because we've got sextiles to Jupiter. And you guys really want to take your time, both on Monday and Tuesday, because you'll see as the moon is coming into conjunction with Mars, we can have a tendency to rush through things. The moon will also create an inconjunct to Mercury. So I myself have been victim of this. I've seen after the fact, sometimes I'll send an email or I'll rush to get something out or to communicate. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, Mercury is in shadow, or when it was retrograde, I missed some important detail, especially anything in regards to career stuff, timing, right? Scheduling meetings. So watch for that. Don't rush through things on the 30th or the 31st, please. We will also see the moon come into a square with Venus in Pisces. And we're going to start to see the build into the Mars and Venus square that'll be happening in early February. Not much going on other than that. We finally got out of the sun square the nodes, and the sun's going to move now to its last square, which will be to Uranus, but it'll be in a couple days. And then we are going to see on the 31st, the Moon-Mars conjunction is kind of separating. We start to see the moon in Gemini coming into a trine with Saturn. So that's also really nice because it's about committing, emotionally committing, sharing our ideas with groups, with other people, but also sharing information online, talking about things, writing about things. I think we're just going to see like a lot of people contributing to, to things online, discussing things and hashing stuff out, especially in regards to politics. I mean, that's just what's going to happen with Saturn and the Sun in Aquarius. We're seeing Saturn kind of finally in the next month or so wrap up its reign in Aquarius. And as Mercury and as the Sun come into conjunction with Saturn, we're going to see that manifest as what is being kind of laid or cemented, in place in terms of the collective. Saturn is about collective groups. It's about our friends. It's about society. But we may hear more about stuff going on in regards to humanitarian efforts and, like I said, political things. It can get a little dramatic as the Sun comes into conjunction with Saturn as well. But still, on the 31st, excellent day for sharing and communicating. We're also seeing that Mercury is still kind of in that extended trine to Uranus. You're actually seeing this kind of wrap up now for the third time since Mercury's retrograde. So I like the tail end of January. Okay, so now let's get into what's going to be happening in the month of February of 2023. I've got a long list of things that I want to talk to you guys about. Starting with first February the 3rd. So on February 3rd, we're going to see the Sun in Aquarius come into a square with Uranus and Taurus. So here we have the Sun. It'll be building throughout that day. It'll actually technically square, I think at 15 degrees is what it's looking like. There we go. Yeah, right on the nose. Okay, so we're going to see on the 3rd, the Sun in Aquarius come into a square with Uranus and Taurus. So part of this will be connected also to the full moon. I just want to tell you guys, like, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, like, kick back and watch the drama unfold. Do I think it's going to be a crisis? Not necessarily, but I think a lot of us are going to have the experience throughout the first week of February that's like, okay, well, that happened, so now what? Do we wrap this up? Is it no longer working? Do we close this out? For a number of reasons, and I'll talk about this more in my full moon video, but the full moon is going to have a lot of the same aspects, right? It'll be in Leo. But you'll see this building on the 3rd, naturally, because we're coming into that full moon energy. Later on the day in the 3rd, we're going to see that, or later in the evening, going into the early hours of the 4th, the moon will move into Leo. But we've got the Sun, which is about energy, vitality. It's about groups when it's in the sign of Aquarius, coming into a square with Uranus. Now, this reminds me of whatever has been playing out with the Sun square, the nodes that you've been experiencing yesterday. Okay, today, the Sun in Aquarius square the nodes, karmic things, turning points happening, really significant events that can have some kind of karmic repercussion. Then we have the Sun square Uranus, which is anything goes day. Don't tell me what to do. Things are a little topsy-turvy. The Sun in Aquarius is like what your friends want to do, or what a collective group wants to do, or what a social media app wants to do, and how it's actually challenging Uranus and Taurus. Frequency, right? The earth, energy, power grids, cryptocurrencies, financial markets. So I think we're going to hear a lot of information about what's going on economically and like where the Fed might be like, things aren't really looking so hot. I say that for a number of reasons. Number one, this is happening in a Gemini degree. So I think it's really going to be about watching the headlines with what's coming out in the world. Also a lot about social media companies. Maybe where they're making significant changes. We're going to see more of social media companies talking about implementing, bringing on like subscriptions and things that you pay for. And it might disrupt, some people kind of going like, well, I don't want to have to pay for this, or like, why do I have to contribute to that? But the Sun square Uranus can also be shocks and surprises, things that we didn't necessarily see coming. And in a Gemini degree, information, stuff that's being relayed. So watch for those kind of like sudden conversations that catch you off guard. Also right around the same time that we see this square happening, obviously it's bringing me back to the Saturn-Uranus squares that we've had these last 2 or 3 years, where we've kind of been on this teeter-totter between, okay, do we give into limitation and working with collective groups and making sacrifices, or do we say, screw that, I'm rebelling against that, I don't share that same value, I won't invest in that, I won't spend my money on that. And it's literally been about decentralization, like literally the Saturn-Uranus square has been that. Taurus, banking, bonds, also financial markets, right? Scorpio, debt and money owed. And then Aquarius is going to be really the people, how it's affecting the people. So several years of friction. I'm anticipating finally the cat's going to be like let out of the bag, and we're going to start hearing the truth in regards to the fact that we are essentially in so many ways already in a recession. We just might start getting more confirmation in regards to that. Okay, so then literally the next day, going into the 4th, we see Venus in Pisces come into a square with Mars in Gemini, and that's going to be taking place right around, well, actually 10 or 11 degrees. It looks like it's happening here. So it looks like it's going to happen closer to the, 4th in the early morning. They're going to be close, but it looks like the square is going to be happening at 11 degrees. Okay, yeah, it'll be on the 4th. So the 4th has the square, Venus in Pisces, exalted, romantic, sensual, very sacrificial. There can also be a sense of like inspiration and, putting people on a pedestal. But if you're a native Venus in Pisces, you're having a Venus return. This is great for music and also anything in regards to connecting with the goddess, working with the element of water. So baths and chalices and anything that you want to be filling up and kind of putting out on your altars is really nice. I'm a fan of the Mars-Venus square. I think that it's nice. It creates a little bit of friction, especially because Venus in Pisces is more sensual and kind of receptive, and that Mars in Gemini is a little bit more feisty. So I could definitely see a little bit of like cat and mouse games coming from this. Equally, the North Node being ruled by Venus and the South Node being ruled by Mars, is it talks about the pressure that's going on in regards to archetypes of masculinity and femininity. What it means to be a woman, what it means to be a man. We're going to hear more about some of that stuff. And I think that at an 11, it kind of suggests that Mars is really waking up and kind of being like, okay, are you going to do this or not? So there could be some pulling of the pigtails and kind of, teasing people as a way of showing affection and being kind of flirty. And this is in mutable signs. So if you have any placements around, I would say 10 to 12 degrees as a mutable signs, you may feel this a little bit more. I joke when I see the Venus square Mars, it's like nudging you along with love. It's like, okay, are you going to do this? Kind of trying to push somebody in the direction of taking action. So it could be a little bit of like a tough love day as well. Hours later, we come into the full moon. And that will be in the sign of Leo, yet another full moon at 16 degrees. So that is pretty wild. The aspects for this moon also is just, I could go on and on and on. I'm going to do a whole video on this. That's probably what's going to come out on Tuesday. But obviously the full moon is that completion of a cycle. If you think back to, intentions that you were setting while the sun was in Leo this past summer of 2022, it has been building towards this full moon lunation. So look at where Leo is in your chart. There is kind of a completion going on in that area. Obviously the moon in Leo, very proud, right? And traditionally Leo is associated with the sun. So this is one of those situations whenever we have a full moon in Leo that it's not just about what's going on with the moon and the aspects to the moon. Equally, it's actually really important to look at the sun because the sun is connected to Leo. And holy fixed squares, Batman, like look at this, 16, 16. It's within a degree this full moon of creating a fixed T-square to the planet Uranus and Taurus. So even though like Saturn's leaving and changing signs, even though, you know, Uranus is direct and we're moving out of these squares with like the sun and other planets in Aquarius, the Saturn-Uranus square just will not stop. I don't know if you guys feel like that, but it's like I keep seeing like patterns of this that just keeps coming up that's just reminding you like something is bending to the point where it's just going to snap. Anyway, so squares create friction. It creates sometimes conflict. We have to act on something. Full moons, we have higher kind of emotional things going on. It's more emotionally charged. And full moons are about completions. So generally Leo, you know, a sign that's associated with creativity, taking chances, children, you know, artistic abilities. It's a pretty fun full moon. But this one is very, very Uranian. It's very charged with that square to Uranus. So as the moon is kind of coming to its apex, you're going to notice that there may be events or things taking place in the Leo area of your chart that's putting pressure on the Taurus energy in your chart. Fixed signs, right? 15 to 17 degrees, or if you have any fixed placements, 15 to 17 degrees, hold on to your shorts. It's going to be electrifying. Do I think it's doom or gloom? No, but I do think that we're going to definitely feel the crunch, and there is this sense of needing to energetically kind of level up. And it can be quite, there's some tension here. There's some tension here. Around the same time, we're also seeing the Mercury-Pluto conjunction that is brewing. So it'll be a couple days later, but as we come into that conjunction, a lot of us are going to feel like, that's it. You know, I can't do this thing anymore. There is this mental fixation on needing to change or transform something. Now, out in the world, you know, Leo full moons, we see lots of drama going on with like TMZ and Hollywood, and we'll hear more about the royals, and we'll hear also more about like younger people or famous people, and some dramatic news in regards to that, sometimes younger people as well. So stay tuned. I'll be putting a video together on that, and I'll take you guys through the 12 signs and talk about how that's going to affect you. Okay, so moving on, we're now going to go to February 6th. We're going to have Mercury in Capricorn, sextile Neptune in Pisces, around 23 degrees. So here we have Mercury, we have the sextile to Neptune. I like this aspect. It'll be short-lived, but it's definitely helping us tune in, use like logic and just common sense, and being much more grounded and kind of problem solving in Capricorn, wanting to get ahead of the situation and solve something. And it's leaning into that sextile, which is a comfortable angle to Neptune, which is about listening to your intuition, letting that kind of guide you in making practical decisions. You might experience it as a day where you're a little bit more kind of tuned in, a little bit more sensitive. Dreams can be really significant. We can have signs and omens, and we can have precognitive dreams that can help direct us to where we want to go. Great kind of problem solving day once you get out of some of the aspects that's going on with the full moon. There will be a lot of like referring to screenshots, referring to screens, getting really visual with like showing and explaining things. I'm wondering if there's going to be like a lot of eyes on TV sets trying to figure out, well, what exactly happened post full moon. It's another way that I can look at it. But there can also be like subliminal communication and needing to read between the lines in regards to what we're being told. So it's about digging deeper, right? Especially as Mercury is coming into conjunction with Pluto. All right, so then on the 7th of February, we're going to see Venus in Pisces, sextile Uranus in Taurus. So this gets kind of interesting because then Venus starts feeling kind of electric. And you're going to feel this a day or two on each side. It'll be closer to the 7th and the 8th. But in the PM hours on the 7th, she hits 15 degrees. You'll feel that, like I said, a day or two before. Venus sextile Uranus. Interesting because, you know, Taurus is ruled by Venus. We've got this nice little sexy angle where Venus is blessing us in an exalted position in the sign of Pisces. Great for manifesting, vision boarding, creating, dreaming. But it also can be about things changing. Uranus is physical change in the sign of Taurus. So it's like, I had a dream, I had a feeling, you know, or I'm making this change, I'm making this sacrifice out of love. Ironically, the same day the moon comes into an opposition with Venus, and it's going to trine Uranus. So really important day to stay grounded. But I think it's about like making subtle changes, switching things up subtly, like making changes in preferences, colors, you know, food, things like that. And especially in Pisces, I think it's also about us using things that might be state of the art or unusual or different when it comes to art, music, inspiration. So we might see some like cool things kind of coming out about art or about innovations in art or design. Some new fashion trends might emerge from this as well. But it's not a significant aspect. It's a lazy aspect of that sextile. But still, nevertheless, I think we have the opportunity to kind of welcome that change. And it reminds me of like doing anything that's like soaking and detoxing or working with frequencies. That might be really nice with that sextile. All right, so now we're going to move to February 9th. And this will be when Mercury and Pluto come into conjunction. So this is a big transit. As many of you guys know, we had the Mercury retrograde, right? And Mercury in its retrograde stopped short of coming into conjunction with Pluto. I have been waiting for this conjunction because in the back of my mind, I've been like, there's some stuff going on in the world and we are not getting disclosure. And somebody's not letting the cat out of the bag about something. So Mercury, the mind, communication, documents, information. There's no coincidence. We've seen tons of like document dumps and data information and stuff that's being unveiled throughout this retrograde because it was in a sign that has to do with government. So now that Mercury comes into conjunction with Pluto, we might be getting to the bottom of something, or there may be some sense of something coming out. Does it have to happen on this day? No. Watch for when the moon actually goes deeper into Libra and it squares this. I think we might see more then. And it can be about corruption. It can be about crimes. It can be about big tech and big companies and things like that, superiors or some kind of leak. So just knowing that like the Twitter files or the next batch of them are coming out, I anticipate this is going to be really wild if it happens around this time. I'm just speculating. I don't know. Because I do think that it may be exposing certain individuals, right? There is a sense of exposing, especially considering the fact that Pluto is the co-ruler of the South Node, right? So we see that Pluto coming into conjunction with Mercury, releasing some of the information that's been uncovered. Mercury is still connected to Mars, right? And it's just Mars, the further that it's getting out of Gemini and coming out of squares and mutable signs, it's like we're going to start to really see some significant, I think, watershed moments this spring in regards to like what the heck is going on behind the scenes out in the world with those who are in charge. I mean, this screams corruption to me. It's at a 28, so it can be about our homelands. It can be about the reality of what's going on with the housing markets, the reality of also what's going on with the United States, you know, financial situation. As many of you guys have probably heard, all the drama going on with the budget and just our never-ending series of meetings and conversations in regards to our debt ceiling. But this is right around America's Pluto. So we've been in the midst of a Pluto return. So I'm anticipating lots of information coming out about where are our tax dollars going? How much money are we actually spending on things? There's been some incentive to obviously push to kind of like try to get people who are in, you know, Senate and Congress and who are in government positions to pass legislation to limit them from being able to trade stocks, right? So this might be another thing that I'm wondering, is it like Mercury is the document, the conjunction to Pluto is like, this is the last hurrah, you know, we can't have this anymore. Once again, just speculating. But I personally don't have a lot of hope for that. That would be great to get money out of politics, but I'm not so sure that that's going to happen quite yet. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Then we've got, let's see, the 9th. Okay, so that conjunction is going to happen. And what's really interesting is right when Mercury leaves the conjunction, Mercury goes to 29 and then it moves into Aquarius. Then Pluto moves to 29, okay, on the 11th. So on the 11th, Mercury enters Aquarius, so it becomes more free with the information. Keep in mind, this is like where we've seen the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. We saw Saturn go in and out of this degree. Pluto's going to hit this degree pretty soon. And we will feel the shift. Like, this is about freedom. Okay, now that we have the information, what do we do with it? And Uranus, you know, it's connected to Mercury. So as we're seeing information kind of become more freely available, I think in the month of February, there's going to be obviously some effects physically, right, with the squares to the North Node and also to Uranus. Okay, so on the 11th, we see Mercury entering into Aquarius. Look for the freedom and things that might start flying information-wise, especially because it's going to be in an air element. And right when that square happens, notice we also have the moon going to Scorpio, conjunct the South Node and square Mercury. So it's going to be like what information comes out, whether it's like a Fed meeting saying, yeah, we're heading for a recession, or, you know, we're making changes to, you know, rates or whatever. People are going to be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? You know, moon conjunct South Node, oppose Uranus, square Mercury. So there's a lot of communication breakdown and fear revolving around resources is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. All right, so then we're going to keep it moving, and I'm going to take you guys to the 14th and the 15th, where we have some sweeter news going on around these dates. Okay, so Venus and Neptune will conjunct, although you'll feel this the 14th and the 15th. But Venus coming into conjunction with Neptune, that'll be happening on the 15th of February. So if you're having some sweet romantic Valentine's Day plans, it looks like it could be great. I'm kind of like on the fence about Venus-Neptune aspects because I feel like on one hand, it's like very fairy tale Disney romance. Anything is possible, knight in shining armor. But it's at a 24, which is double Piscean. So the positive side is like, you know, great bottle of wine, being by water, being by the beach, fantasies being fulfilled, like everything being super romantic, or it's like everything falls flat and there's disappointment and you go on a blind date and it looks nothing like their picture, or they ghost, you know, and you're like, oh my goodness, you know, they forgot Valentine's Day. I personally don't really care that much, but I think you want to watch out for disappointment. Those of you guys who are having positive aspects, like if you have water placements around like 23 to 25 degrees, it might be a little smoother for you. But it's happening as the moon is coming into a square with Venus and Neptune. So I'm getting the impression that plans are changing, things are shifting. You know, people said they're going to do one thing with moon opposed Mars, and then it turns out a different way. So there can be some sense of disappointment or disillusionment. Okay, watch for like just trusting financial transactions and things right around this time as well. We have lots of outer planet aspects this month, and that's something I talk about in my horoscopes, you know, with the Mercury-Pluto conjunction being like, that's it, this isn't working, or this is kind of sinister, or something is off, or something tells me that this is not the truth, or I need to do my research. Then we also have the Sun-Saturn conjunction that's setting up, so it's about getting serious and kind of crystallizing and committing to something, but also feeling that we're making a sacrifice, especially in a sense of our happiness, our joy, our vitality, right? The sun isn't totally happy in Aquarius. The conjunction to Saturn in its home sign is like, what am I sacrificing in terms of my creativity, in terms of my fun, in terms of my love, or my ability to feel like I can express myself by superiors, right? Saturn. So weird stuff, man. You got right around the time of Valentine's Day, a lot of outer contact that's going on, and it makes me feel like it might be just things that are going on in the world that people are feeling like, well, can we go out and do anything? Is it the time? You know, does it make sense financially? Things like that. But it's really bringing in all of this Aquarius energy that's saying like, we're going to start, if you guys look around in February, especially the first half, you're going to get a really clear idea of what Pluto and Aquarius is going to bring. That separation, isolation is the new normal, right? This more kind of technological world. And it'll take a long time for Pluto to play out, but having Pluto move in and Saturn kind of being at the final degrees, it's going to be like, okay, this is normal now. And it feels kind of like a bummer with the Sun-Saturn conjunction. So yeah, Venus Neptune on the 15th. Then on the 16th, we're going to have the Saturn Sun conjunction at a 27 of Aquarius. This is also interesting because this is, like I said in my horoscopes, just it's encapsulating everything that we've been dealing with since 2020. If you guys think back to 2020, Saturn went in and out of Aquarius. Finally, the winter, or it was like December of 2020, Saturn and Jupiter both moved into the sign of Aquarius at the same time, basically saying, okay, now we're here to stay. So you want to think, since 2020, what's been going on in your life, right? Look at your chart, look at where Aquarius is. Saturn's been in that area of your life, showing you where it's time to commit to your goals, level up, focus on making sacrifices, but maturing, okay? So you ask any fixed sign, we're over it. We're so ready to say goodbye to Saturn. But with these transits, there's definitely been a sense of, at least for me, becoming more aware of my goals, right? And so maybe you had that same experience. Obviously, it's been a little bit of a loop-de-loop with some of the squares that we've seen to the nodes and also to Uranus. It's almost like we had to focus on the bigger picture, what our goals were, even if it potentially trumped our financial state, even if it potentially meant that we had to create change, right? The squares that we've seen with the eclipses in Scorpio has been releasing, letting go of fear, really rising through the ashes and going like, if I don't find a group that I like, I'm going to start my own group, right? If I don't really belong in this, affiliation of any kind, then I'm going to go my own way. So we've been having to really kind of reconcile between the element of air and also the element of earth. And a lot of things have been very abstract. I guess that's the best way I can put it. It's been very abstract. And yeah, look at where Aquarius is in your chart. The Sun-Saturn conjunction, I think, is going to be highlighting for you what your lesson has been, what you have learned, what you've worked on. When Saturn leaves a sign, he leaves a gift. So you may not see this yet until Saturn gets a little bit into Pisces, but you might really see the Aquarius area of your life just fully blossom and something that you've been working to achieve shows up, right? So then we are going to see on the 17th, I guess the conjunction's it's actually really going into, it'll be overnight, the 15th going into the 16th, but we're splitting hairs. It's within minutes. So you'll feel it the 15th and the 16th, even though it's going to be early morning on the 16th. Then we're going to go to the 17th of February. This is when Mercury in Aquarius will sextile Jupiter in Aries. I like this a lot. A lot. It makes me feel like there's opportunity and room for good news to arrive. Mercury, previous days, okay, so it's probably like the 15th and the 16th because Mercury moves pretty quick. Mercury is also in a square with the nodes, so I didn't add that to the list, but this will be the last planet that we're going to have that's going to square. Let me just go back so I can show you. There we go. So it looks like the square from Mercury, it's going to be right around here. Yeah, February 16th. So Mercury in Aquarius at a 6. What is healthy? Where do I need to fix something? Do I need assistance with this? What's breaking down? It's going to have a lot to do with, I think, health or services or the service industry. But Mercury square the nodes is fateful conversations. Needing to apply information or having a conversation, making a phone call, sitting down and talking to someone. So then as we get into then the 17th, then Mercury hits 9 and it sextiles Jupiter. So it's like whatever that conversation is, it's positive because it lends energy to Jupiter saying, okay, I'm glad we had that talk. Maybe we healed something, right? It'll also be coming into sextile Chiron. Maybe it makes me more excited about the future. Maybe I received an important piece of information that's helping me kind of plan what direction I'm going in, or a friend, Aquarius, sheds a light on something that could have been a blind spot, for you, that helps you kind of have like a much more positive, open, optimistic, enthusiastic perspective on something. So good conversations happening around the 16th, the 17th. Then we're going to see on the 18th, the sun is going to move into Pisces. So it'll be the very first day of Pisces. And we're also starting to see planets come into the late degrees in conjunction with Saturn. So you guys will see that all through February. But those of you guys who are February Aquarians, happy birthday. March Pisces, happy birthday. Sun in Pisces is going to start here on the 18th at 0 degrees. So now that the sun has shifted into Pisces, we're going to be focusing more on what's going on, obviously, with Neptune and what's going on with Jupiter. And we will continue to follow that pattern until the sun enters into Aries, and that will be the astrological new year. In many ways, February and kind of going into mid-March, we're just wrapping the year up. It's like, I don't know about you guys, but now that I've gotten to the beginning of February, I'm even more convinced now, like the new year is not really going to start till about the end of March. So I'm going to treat it like that and just kind of let the cosmos do their thing. But still feeling that sun conjunct Saturn. Will be coming into a new moon just shortly after that in Pisces. Obviously, we're watching Jupiter. Jupiter is approaching its conjunction with Chiron, and the sun will be reaching towards its conjunction with Neptune. And as we continue to move forward, the next date we're going to look at will be the 19th. Quick, but you can catch this transit. Venus in Pisces, sextile Pluto in Capricorn. So Venus will hit 29. Pluto will hit 29. It's already there. And Venus sextile Pluto. So it's an opening sextile. Venus is still conjunct Neptune, so you're feeling the romance of that. But as it sextiles Pluto, there is this kind of like definitive change or transformation, which we feel anyway when planets hit 29 degrees of Pisces. This is the very last degree of the zodiac. So those of you guys who are Venus ruled charts, my Taurus and Libra risings, pay attention, because you might just notice that there's something that's wrapping up right around this time for you. Venus sextile Pluto is sensual, right? It's about change, transformation, but it can also be about passion, desire. It can be about power, and it can be about power through relationships, power with love, being able to use love as like a soft power method for being able to really change or transform something, or using a little bit of love to help you go through the process of letting something go, letting go of the need to feel like you have to control something. I definitely feel like we're going to feel this, because as this transit is setting up, we also see the moon here. See how it's between Mercury coming into conjunction with Saturn, which can also be seen as like a definitive ending. Interesting day to have both of those at 29. Keep in mind, Venus is exalted in Pisces, so it's loving its trek through Pisces the first like 19, 20 days of the month. And then Venus is going to drop into Aries. So that will have an effect, obviously, on the North Node. Then we move to the 20th, which will be when Venus moves into Aries. So totally different energy, totally different vibe. We're going to have that new moon that's going to be taking place at 1 degrees of Pisces on the 20th as well. And Venus enters 0 degrees of Aries. I mean, it's fun. It's definitely going to be more active, right? It's not as lay around and cuddle and watch movies type of vibe. It's not as hopelessly kind of dreamy, romantic. It's like, let's go and do something. Let's do it now. And Venus is going to start coming into conjunction with Jupiter, which is going to magnify the feelings or the expression of Venus in Aries, which can be, I think maybe like a little bit more aggressive in terms of how it expresses itself. But yes, big energy on February 20th with that new moon in Pisces, the very first degree of Pisces. So it's going to be really focusing on changing and transforming or releasing and letting something go for ourselves on a very personal level. Saturn, when it moves into Pisces here pretty soon, it will hit this degree. So I really like this new moon for you guys. I'm excited to talk about how to work with it during my new moon reports. But this is a good one because Saturn will hit that. So you'll be able to see the effects every single time Saturn hits it and retrogrades back to this all of 2023. So if you're wanting to commit more to like prayer, meditation, to spiritual studies, to alone time, to getting better sleep, If you're wanting to commit also to just your faith, your belief systems, I could see Pisces being that. This is a really great new moon to work with to set some of those intentions, because Saturn will go back and forth over that degree literally all year. So commitment, long-term planning, also just focusing more on emotions. I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but you guys are going to see when Saturn comes into conjunction with this degree, there is going to be an incentive in parts of the world to go back to some kind of lockdowns, to have some kind of limitation. You will see that. They're going to push for this. So really the question is when Saturn hits this degree throughout this year, it's like, regardless of all that stuff, that doesn't matter. What do you do with time alone? What are you doing, and how are you focusing on meditating and being responsible for your frequencies and creating the vision for the life that you want? Right? Even if you're not seeing it yet, it's about holding that vision, holding that vibration. So I'm encouraging everybody, especially if you're an Aries rising, but it doesn't really matter. I think Saturn through Pisces can be really wonderful for reflecting on our emotions and doing a little bit more meditating and holding space for the planet. Okay, so Venus hits 0 of Aries. That'll be interesting in the world axis point. And then we move on from the 20th to the 21st. And we're going to see Mercury in Aquarius square Uranus in Taurus. So Mercury's on the move. And it will square at 15 degrees. Okay, so my Gemini and Virgo risings, pay attention to this day. Mercury once again at a 15. Square Uranus at a 15. Same degree-ish as the Leo full moon. So if you pay attention to what happens on the 5th of February, when we have that T-square that's squaring Uranus and the sun is here, we have a similar square. Squares to Uranus is electrifying, sudden, unexpected change. This is where we've seen breakdowns where people can't get their money off of the crypto exchanges. We've seen ATMs that don't work. We see power grid failures. Pay attention, because Mercury is computers, cars, it's mind, it's the internet, it's social media. Likely there's going to be something going on right around this time with this square. And it just can be agitating and communicating, and people kind of feel like they're either their hard drives or their minds are like fried just after the new moon. So that'll be a quick moving transit. What's interesting is as that transit is wrapping up, we see Mercury coming into a trine with Mars. So it has an outlet for that. Even though there's some kind of frazzled conversation, Mercury trines Mars and goes, we have a solution, keep it moving, let's just keep going, right? Or people can be more assertive and more direct. This isn't working, try that, try this, try that. And right as the moon is coming into a conjunction with Venus. So I like the 21st as like a help yourself type of day. It's like take action, get the show on the road, get it going. And when Mercury trines Mars, we have more support and we have more drive, and it might be to achieve our goals. It might be to respond to whatever is kind of playing out in the world. We might be calling friends and asking for a little bit of a pep talk, right? So that's taking place on the 22nd. And believe it or not, there's not too many aspects from that point on. We'll have lunar aspects, sure. You guys will see on it'll be early on the 24th. The moon will come into a square with Pluto. Then we're going to see Venus start coming into a conjunction with Jupiter, but I don't think that's going to happen until March. And Saturn hits 29 degrees on the 27th. So that's something else that's worth mentioning. We have Pluto and we have Saturn at 29 degrees. So guys, as we have planets in these late degrees, it's wrapping something up. As many of you guys know, in March, we're going to see Saturn go into Pisces. We're going to see Pluto get ready to go into Aquarius. So we feel like the volume is turned up really loud, especially because both of these have connections to Saturn, Aquarius. This has connections to Saturn also being in the sign of Capricorn. So there is some sense of like, oh, things feel tense. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of limitation. It's wanting to kind of wrap up its reign here. That'll go more into the beginning of March, and that's why I try to put these out early for you guys. So I'll talk to you about how these planets kind of switching signs in March are going to really impact us. Each of those transits, they're going to need their own video. But that's pretty much the month at a glance. Just watch for the squares to Uranus. That's like the best advice I can give you guys. I'm not too worried about the Pisces new moon. It's definitely going to be the full moon that's going to be in Leo that's going to be a little bit more action-packed, and it's going to have sparks. I guess that's the key word for February. We're going to see sparks. And when sparks fly, there is the opportunity to have excitement and also to create things and have fun. But there can also be friction and grinding of gears and the unwillingness to kind of make changes. So for many of the fixed signs, it might be reminiscent to some of the stuff you've experienced in these last couple of months. But it's going to wind down and it's going to get a little bit easier. I'm looking forward to seeing how the month plays out. I'll be back throughout the next couple of weeks. We'll keep doing the astro weathers. Those of you guys who haven't checked out the horoscopes, do check those out if you want to know how it's going to play out for you more personally. And I'm putting together some stuff right now for you guys. I'm working on a cool project that I'm going to do for the Jupiter-Chiron conjunction that's coming. I'm hoping to put something on my website that's going to be a lecture. So I'm going to sell basically a digital ticket. It's going to be a lecture on the Jupiter-Chiron conjunction and what it means for personal healing, with also journaling prompts for you guys to be able to work through that for each of the 12 signs. So you can actually work with the transit to focus on promoting self-healing. And then I'm also creating a whole series of meditations for you guys to be able to work with that, because I think it'll be really fun and helpful to kind of take control and participate in doing some of your own healing. So that is going to be the month at a glance. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. I appreciate it. And if you guys want to catch me on a Saturday night, please join me. I'm always doing live readings. I'll post the links in the community tab. And I will be back very soon with that full moon video in Leo. You want to book a reading with me? Click the links below. I would love to read with you. I have openings starting in April, in just a few months. All right. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.